Hello everybody and welcome to the video. And before we get into the stories today, I just wanted to let you all know that this video is sponsored by Amino. Amino is a social networking place where there's millions of people to talk to, but more specifically we're going to talk about creepypasta Amino. It's a category within there, just for us creepy people. They even have my personal favorite, the role-playing chat rooms, where you go in and you just kind of make things up as it goes. It's a really cool app to show your creepy artwork or even chat with everybody, whether by text or voice chat, or even share videos with each other. Once you get the app, you should look me up over there because I have a poll going and you can help me decide the topic of one of my upcoming videos. To come and participate in the polls that I have up, make sure you download the Creepypasta Amino app. You can do that by looking in the description for the links or in the pinned comment and follow the instructions on how to download Amino. And yes, it's free, on iOS or Android. Or you can just download Amino by searching the app in the store, then searching for Creepypasta once you're in. And once you're there, you can find me by searching Urmaker. Hope to see you over there and am interested in everyone's answers for my polls. And who knows, we might run into each other doing the Creepypasta role-playing. I love to poke in there and just add some randomness to it. And without any further ado, let's begin. I had a stalker for about 3 years. Before I start, I want to apologize because this story is really long, and I'm not the best writer. First, some backstory. I was never really a popular kid in high school. I didn't play any sports, didn't participate in any clubs. I always kind of blended in the crowd and there was just nothing really special about me. An average Joe, I guess you could call me. The other important person in this story is a girl we'll call Katrina. She was a short, thin girl who always reeked of body odor, always had flat, greasy hair and wore the same gray sweats every day. She was quiet, and if I'm honest, she was really kind of creepy, mumbling to herself, twiddling her fingers, etc. She did get picked on, albeit not a lot. I think people were too afraid to bully her, and those who didn't stay long. I don't think she ever had any friends, because I never saw her with anybody. I first met her during my freshman year of high school. We were in the same grade. I didn't really interact with her at all that year, though. The only interaction I ever had with her was the occasional running into her in the halls in between classes. These interactions only lasted for about 5 seconds, so it was almost nothing. When I started my sophomore year, I found out she was in my chemistry class. I sat kind of in the middle right side of the room, while she sat at the top left corner of the room. For about half the school year, I didn't talk to her at all. Until one day, my chemistry teacher put Katrina and I as lab partners. My teacher randomly assigned them. That's when I started talking to her. And I could tell she was a little nervous at first. She never really liked interacting with other people. I was the one to say something first. I said something along the lines of, "Hi, my name is Tyler." She told me her name was Katrina. At first we had to focus on the lab. She made small talk and was pleasant at first, but I could tell she was having a hard time keeping the conversation going. We finished the first part of the lab early and had some time to kill. I didn't want to just sit there in an awkward silence, so I started making small talk. I asked her if she had any siblings, what kind of music she likes, etc. The only thing I remember her saying is that she was an only child. While working on the lab, I would try to be friendly to her, mostly because I felt bad for her. The lab lasted for a couple of days, and when we finished, we ended up getting an A on it. I was pretty happy considering the fact I had a low D in the class. Katrina was the one who did all the calculations and graphing right, so I made sure she got credit for that. I told Katrina she was really smart, and she smiled and blushed a little bit. "I love chem," she said. "I hate it," I replied. "I have a D in this class." She told me that she tutors and she would be happy to help me free of charge if I needed it. I will admit that the offer was tempting, but I politely declined, mostly because I didn't want to be with her body odor for an hour one-on-one. As the year went on, I started to notice that Katrina would be nearby every time I walked out of my classes. Never right in front of the door, but probably 20 feet away down the hall or something like that. She would say hi to me as I walked by her, and I would say hi back. Also around this time, my grade in chem was really slipping, and I was in danger of failing if I didn't do anything about it. Not wanting to spend a lot of money on a tutor that I would only want for 2 months, I only had one option left. "Hey Katrina, I was wondering if you could help me with my chemistry." Her eyes lit up and she seemed very excited. "Of course I will. Meet me at the school library at 3:10. My first mistake was asking her to tutor me, and my second mistake was actually meeting her at the library. She told me that she normally tutors students for about an hour, but she wanted to spend 2 hours with me so that I could really get a good grasp on the information. Every day at 3:10 to 5 o'clock, I sat with Katrina in the library with nobody else but her horrid body odor. The way she talked about her covalent bonds and reactions made me very uncomfortable. She would go on to tell me how some atoms always need to be close to each other, and how sharing electrons will bond atoms forever. It was weird, but hey, I really needed her help. For weeks on end, I was forced to sit right next to her talking about a subject I really hated. Although the way she was explaining things kind of unnerved me, it surprisingly helped me and I was actually understanding chemistry. I nearly aced my final and was able to raise my grade to a C+. I will take that C+ with pride. I thanked Katrina on the last day of school for all her help. She said it was no trouble and that if I ever needed any more help, she would be very happy to sit down with me and chat. Then she gave me a wink. The way she said that rubbed me the wrong way, but I quickly forgot about it considering the fact that it was summer vacation and I was free from school for 3 months. That year I had a good summer. I did a lot of fun things, hung out with friends, and went to some very cool places. However, it went by so quickly that before I knew it, it was time for me to pick up my classes for junior year. I was excited for my first day of junior year, considering the fact that this would be the first time I would be an upperclassman. That day I noticed that Katrina was in 3 of my 6 classes. I brushed it off as a spooky coincidence. As the year went on, she would pop up seemingly out of nowhere and say hi to me, whether it be in the hallways or in the common area where we had our 10-minute lunch break, etc. I would even run into her occasionally when I was on my way to use the bathroom. She would always say hi and ask me how I was doing. At first it was nice having her say hi to me and ask me how I was doing every day, considering the fact that I had never really gotten this much attention from a female before. However, the novelty wore off within a month. It started becoming annoying and low-key creepy. Katrina would always talk to me before classes that we had together. She would go on about something new every day, all those about the weather, something about a recent event that went on in her life, but most of the time she asked questions about me. Her breath reeked of I don't even know what. I tried to give her the shortest answers possible to show her that I was not interested in talking to her, but I guess subtleties weren't her strong suit, because it continued every single day. I didn't want to be rude, so I never really said anything about it. She had done nothing wrong to me, and I had no reason to be mean to her. I just thought she would eventually get bored of talking to me and move on with someone else. Boy, was I wrong. A few months later into the school year, I think it was February, I was walking home with one of my friends. This friend lived just a couple of blocks closer to our high school than I did. Every day we would walk in the same direction and just chit-chat about random teenage bullshit. One Friday I was walking with him as usual. When we got to his house, he went inside and I continued walking. Not 5 seconds after my friend closed the door to his house, I hear someone call my name. I turned around and to my surprise, it was Katrina. I asked her what was up and she replied, "So, She seemed very nervous, like she was about to ask a huge favor. She stopped herself, took a deep breath to regain her composure, and then she continued. "So tomorrow is my birthday, and I was wondering if you'd want to come over to my house and celebrate?" You're my only friend, and I've never really had anyone over for my birthday. Now, I want to make this very clear. At this point in time, I only saw Katrina as a fellow classmate and tutor and nothing more than that. I did not think of her as a friend. I had barely spoken to her outside of tutoring, and honestly, I didn't think we really had that much in common. I did not want to go and be the only person at someone's birthday party who I barely knew. It would have been so easy to just say no. But instead, I felt really bad for her. Because if what she was saying was true, and I think it was, I would have been the first person to ever hang out with her on her birthday. And probably ever. In addition, she did help me to get my grade up in chemistry and prevented me from failing that class, saving me from summer school. So I kinda felt like I owed her one. I said yes, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. She told me to be at her house at 1 o'clock tomorrow and to not bring any gifts. She gave me her address and then walked off in the same direction she had presumably came from, back towards the school. I thought that was strange that she would go that much out of her way to invite only me to her place on her birthday. Going to her place would be my third mistake. The next day came, and despite what she said, I had gotten her a generic birthday card and a $50 Visa gift card because I had no idea what she liked. I pull up to her house, knock on the door, and was immediately greeted by Katrina. "Oh my gosh, you made it!" She seemed very, very, very happy that I came. And to be honest, I felt a little warm and fuzzy inside knowing that I made her day. I met Katrina's mom and later her dad when he came home from the store. They were both very nice, but something seemed a bit off about them. I couldn't really put my finger on it. They told me that they were very happy that Katrina had made a friend and that she would be able to spend her birthday with a friend. Katrina then showed me her room. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but when I walked in there, it was surprisingly very neat, clean, and pristine. There is not one thing out of place. Books were neatly organized on shelves, papers were stacked up nice and neat, etc. She showed me her quarter collection and a couple of posters of some famous writers she likes. You know, normal teenage stuff. The way she explained things and the way she talked about her collections, it made me very uneasy. I don't know what it was. It was probably something about her almost whispery voice and her eerie vocabulary. It seemed like she showed me everything except her closet, which I presumed to have a bunch of her personal clothes and underwear in there, and she was too embarrassed for it to be visible to any guests. So I didn't really pay any attention to the closet. But I did get a weird feeling when I looked at the door. After she showed me her room, we just spent time watching TV and playing a board game, just trying to kill time until dinner. From that point until dinner, her parents would come in and say things like, "Oh, how cute," and "You two are adorable together." Did I mention that we are both 17? Her mom took a lot of pictures on her phone and one with a Polaroid camera. I eventually learned later that the Polaroid was Katrina's. I don't know why, but I was very creeped out while at the house. All three of them just seemed off. When the time came, we sang happy birthday, had cake, and I left at 8 o'clock. It was honestly the longest 7 hours of my life. I could not wait to get out of that house because I was extremely uncomfortable there. I thought that was the end of my Katrina encounter, but I could have not been more wrong. This was only the beginning of a very long, very scary life-scarring experience. I finished junior year. Summer came and went, and it was time for senior year. Katrina was in 3 of my classes again this year. The same exact scenario that had happened for the previous 2 years of school had happened that year too. First half of the year was fine. Then grades start slipping during the second half, and I need Katrina to tutor me since I have no money for an actual tutor. I actually don't mind it too much, because after this year I wouldn't be seeing or hearing from Katrina ever again. Or so I thought. However, there was one thing different this year, which changed everything. The school library was undergoing renovations, and therefore Katrina and I had to find somewhere else to study. We could study at my place. I was extremely uncomfortable with her option, but I really didn't see any other way. Whether I liked it or not, Katrina really did help me get my grades up and really prevented me from failing high school, so I had to go along with it. For weeks I would be at her house from 3 to 5 to study with her, and she would help me understand the subjects more. Every time I went to her house, her parents always freaked me out and I always got extremely on edge and very uncomfortable. But if I wanted to graduate high school, get my diploma, and go to a good college, I had to spend time with Katrina, as much as I hated to. And every time I was there in her room, I would look at her closet door and I'd get this unexplained feeling of dread, fear, and anxiety from it. I had no idea why I felt so scared looking at that goddamn closet, but that closet always freaked me out. I had never seen inside of it, so I had no reason to be afraid of it, but I still was, and I didn't know why. But that all changed one day. I was at Katrina's house like usual. While we were studying, she said she had to go use the bathroom really quick. She told me to keep reading while I waited for her to get back. I tried to read, but something about that closet, it got to me. I have no idea why, but I felt that I needed to open it and finally see what was in that damn closet. I poked my head around the door, making sure the coast was clear, then headed towards the closet. I hesitated, but I can't shake that feeling anymore. I had to know what was in that closet. I grabbed the doorknob and opened the closet. It was very anticlimactic. There is nothing in there but a few shirts, pants, and a dresser. Nothing very exciting. I almost laughed at how ridiculous I was being, until I looked at the inside of the door. What I saw scarred me for life. The inside of her closet door was covered with pictures. Pictures of me. They were all Polaroid pictures, supposedly taken from the Polaroid camera that her mom used to take that picture of us on her birthday. Besides that one, all of the photos were taken without my knowledge. Most of them were pictures of me walking through the halls, eating lunch with my friends, and walking home from school. A couple of them were me at my job at Burger King. There were even pictures of me from sophomore and junior year. Then I found a picture of just a dark room with a bed. At first I had no idea why this picture would be here, until I realized it was my room. Katrina had broken into my second-story bedroom and took this photo while I was asleep. But that wasn't even the worst part. There, taped at knee-height on the door, was a pair of my boxers. Of course, I felt extremely uncomfortable, horrified, and violated. This girl was obsessed with me. This girl was insane. This girl had completely flipped her shit. I no longer wanted her to help me. I didn't care if I failed high school, I just wanted to never see her again. I heard Katrina coming down the hallway. I quickly grabbed my boxers and shoved it in my backpack. That was my fourth mistake. I make a flimsy excuse about not feeling well and get the hell out of there. I went to school the next day, not telling anybody about what I had found at Katrina's house. At lunch, she came up to me and said, "I know you went through my closet yesterday." Her low, monotonous voice freaked me out, and she said it so sickly sweet and eerie at the same time. I tried to play dumb. "What? No, I would never." "Oh, really? So you're sure you don't remember taking these?" She then pulls out my boxers, the same pair I had in my backpack. I freaked and immediately searched my backpack. Sure enough, the pair I had taken from her shrine was gone. She was holding the exact pair. I still have no idea how she got those back in less than 24 hours. "I need to tell you something." "What?" She then whispered in my ear, "I love you. You will be mine, one way or another." And then, without taking her eyes off me, she walked away. I was about to cry, I was so scared. Every time I saw her, she would just stare at me. She followed me everywhere I went, stared at me in class, even if I was sitting behind her, and even followed me home. She would never say a word, just stare and follow. I told the school about my situation. They did what they could by enforcing that she was not within 50 feet of me on the school property. But that hardly did anything. She would still stare at me, and the fact that she was further away just made it seem 10 more times horrifying. One night I woke up hungry. It was like 1 a.m. by the way. I went downstairs into the living room towards the front of the house, then into the kitchen towards the back of the house. I was getting a bowl of cereal, and from where I was standing I could see into the living room and out the bay windows at the front of the house. There, standing in the middle of the street under the street lamp, was a person. I couldn't make out any details, but I knew it was Katrina. I ran back upstairs and stayed awake with my hockey stick in hand. About 2 months later, I graduated and moved out of state to attend university. I wish it ended there, but it continues. When I first moved in, it was nice. The campus was gorgeous, my dorm was spacious, and my roommate was chill. Perfect. I was still doing really well in my classes in the first couple of weeks. Right around this time, Katrina found my phone number. She would call and text seemingly non-stop. I never responded to any of her texts. I would just block her number. And that would work for about a week, until she started texting and calling from a different number. Eventually, I had my number changed. That worked for about a month until she found my new number and started it all over again. One morning I woke up to 492 text messages, 103 missed calls, and 56 voicemails. All from her. The voicemails would range from, "I love you," to, "If you don't love me back, I will kill you, your family, and then myself." Obviously, I called the cops, who did almost nothing about it. These events and many more occurred during the course of almost 8 more months. Until one day. At this point, I had met a really nice girl and started dating her. I really loved her, and she was my very first real girlfriend. We did so much together, so many fun dates and adventures. One night, my girlfriend and I were at my place drinking. We both had been dating for about a year at this point. My girlfriend had crashed on my bed and I decided it was time for bed. I rolled into bed and fell asleep. At about 3 a.m. I awoke to a glass shattering. I immediately sprung up, still a bit lightheaded from drinking. I stumbled out of bed and turned on the light. There, crawling through the window, was Katrina holding a knife. I screamed, waking up my girlfriend. She screamed and ran out of the dorm. I could hear Katrina yell, "If I can't have you, no one can," as I ran down the hall to wake up a neighbor. Thank God they answered. I was only able to tell them I was being chased and I needed 911. Katrina came bolting out of my dorm, running towards us. I saw her cold, lifeless eyes and her pale skin. She looked like she had completely lost her shit. We hurried inside our neighbor's dorm and dialed 911. In about 2 minutes, the cops showed up. Of course, Katrina was long gone. The cops searched my dorm and the entire perimeter of the building and found no one. I gave my statement and a description of Katrina, and the cops told me they would be patrolling the area that night looking for her. I still didn't sleep that night. The next day, I got a call from the police station. They had found and arrested Katrina at a nearby bar after she stabbed the bartender for whatever reason. She was sent to a mental hospital instead of jail, because I think she had some serious issues. The last thing she said when I saw her was, "I will come back and you will be mine." It took a really long time for the reoccurring nightmares to finally stop. I had to drop out of college because this incident had messed me up so bad I couldn't focus on my studies. It took me years of therapy for me to get over the incident to the point where I could get back and finish college. It's been about 20 years since this whole fiasco ended. I'm now married and have 2 kids and have a stable job and live in a very nice suburban house. Even though it's been almost 20 years, I don't think I'll ever recover from the hell Katrina put me through. Her words still haunt me to this day. I will come back and you will be mine. The following event took place in a small Midwest town in the United States. I have always considered myself a skeptical person. I have never really believed in ghosts, spirits, demons, etc., but have always been intrigued and drawn to paranormal phenomena. A calling that just can't be described. However, several years ago, an event that took place one summer evening has me questioning everything I thought I knew. I'm a male in my mid-20s, and this took place when I was 19, and hanging out with my friends and playing video games usually summarized most weekends. One of those nights I decided to go over to my friend Sam's house. We both lived at home with our parents at the time, and his girlfriend Kay was currently staying at his house. The night proceeded like any other night of hanging out and playing video games. As it got later into the night, Sam and Kay stepped out for a bit for a smoke break. Not cigarettes, but the obvious counterpart. Not to be a goody two-shoes, but I do not smoke. Just has never been my thing. So I waited inside, passing the time. When they came back in, Sam and I continued to hang out, and Kay went up to bed shortly thereafter. We were in his living room on the main floor, which was directly underneath his bedroom upstairs. It was around 3 a.m., which in hindsight makes the whole experience that much more eerie when I hear a small thump coming from upstairs. Imagine the sound of a remote or phone dropping directly above you. I didn't really think anything of it and brushed it off. A couple seconds later came a second, slightly louder thump. Then I noticed it caught the attention of Sam too. We paused our game and gave each other the "what the hell was that" look. Before I could process anything, it sounded like a mosh pit had formed upstairs. We sprung up, having no idea what to do. For what seemed like an eternity, loud crashes, bangs, and thuds were consuming the house. Then came the sound that sent chills down my back and made every hair on my body stand up. A blood-curdling scream erupted during the chaos. Sam bolted for the stairs and I was right on his tail. It was one of those moments where your brain is moving 1,000,000 miles a minute, but time feels still. My initial thought was that a raccoon or squirrel got in through the window and Kay was freaking out. I wish that were the case. After sprinting up the stairs and through the hall, we got to his door and Sam tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. Yelling for his girlfriend, he finally cracked the door just enough to hit the light switch. Then, peering through the couple of inches exposed by the open door, I saw a sight that is giving me chills just recalling this, and I will never be able to forget. Every piece of furniture, clothing, and everything in his room was crammed into the corner of his room, blocking the door. I was dumbfounded. How could a single person move everything in a room, including a dresser and a computer desk, alone within a couple of minutes? While my brain was trying to process everything, Sam immediately backed away from the slightly open door and let out a, "What the fuck?" As I glanced into the room again, there stood Kay, perfectly still and erect in the middle of the room with her back facing toward us. Her arms raised to her side with her wrists and hands dangling loosely, almost as if she was standing against an invisible crucifix. The worst part of it all, as we began to freak out, her head snapped back. Not from over her shoulder, but snapped directly back, almost like an owl would, but vertically instead of horizontally. We were both petrified, and by this time his parents were directly behind us trying to make sense of what was happening. Then someone, I can't remember who, but someone managed to get through the door and into the room. A moment passes and Kay falls to the floor and starts convulsing. Sam's mom then puts a pillow under her head and we try to calm her down. Then, in the middle of her flailing around, she started to speak in tongues. I have never heard nor witnessed anything like that in my life, but it sounded exactly like what you would hear in the movies. I couldn't make sense of anything. Then Sam's mom, who was crying uncontrollably at this point, whimpers, "Oh my God." And Kay suddenly stopped everything at the drop of a dime and in this deep man-like voice says,
"Ha ha 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 ha. He's not here to save you now."
I was utterly petrified. It was at this moment I threw all logic I knew out of the window. After Kay or whoever that was said the latter, she went on in a demonic voice stating,
"He is not here. He will not save you. I am free. You will see."
Followed by similar statements. I can't recall everything said after that exactly. She lifted an arm, pointed at all of us individually, saying,
"Then you will be in it. Then you will be in it. And you will be in it."
During that last point, which was directed at me, through my tear-filled eyes we made a brief moment of eye contact, and the image burnt into my mind of nothing but the whites of her eyes damn near filled with her pupils fully dilated. Then she collapsed. During the chaos, someone, who I presume was one of Sam's parents, called 911. A knock on the door pierced through the deafening silence of the aftermath that occurred. Sam's mom and I ran downstairs to let in the first responders. 2 sheriff deputies and an EMT squad came into the house, asked where the girl was, then went upstairs. I then sat on the couch, buried my face in my hands, and was in a state of shock. After minutes of what felt like a lifetime, I looked up and 2 EMT workers had Kay around each of their shoulders, bringing her down the stairs. As they reached the final step, Kay lifted her head, just enough to look at me, and I saw the same look accompanied by a grin that made my entire body flush, along with the sudden urge to vomit, but I managed to hold it in. After she was escorted outside, they put her into an ambulance and took her to the hospital. After collecting myself, I went out to the driveway where everyone was, including the 2 deputies talking to Sam. I briefly overheard part of the conversation, which sounded like the "don't do drugs" spiel, but with more intense statements including, "You know if she doesn't make it and they find any drugs in her system, you will be charged with involuntary manslaughter, drug distribution, etc." I then hear Sam begin to sob uncontrollably. I have the utmost respect for law enforcement, and understandably they have a job to do. But it was truly unfortunate, as Sam is your typical non-troublemaking middle-class kid that just liked the occasional use of weed, and seeing him go through all of that was so hard to watch. After a while, one of the officers came over to me and asked to speak with me. I nodded and obliged. "Sir, have you taken or used any substances or consumed any alcohol tonight?" "No, sir." "Have you seen anybody else use any substances or consume any alcohol this evening?" "No, sir." Followed by a couple more questions stemming around the same topic. He then took my contact information in case there were any further questions. After speaking with us, the officers informed us Kay was being taken to the nearest hospital and told us we could go if we wished to do so. Sam, his mom, and I drove to the hospital, myself separately. At this point, it was around 4 a.m., give or take, and we waited in the waiting room watching reruns of Seinfeld on a caged television while sipping piss-warm hospital coffee. Finally, a nurse comes out and says we can see her. I was hesitant and waited for them back in the lobby. Sam came back out and informed me that they found nothing in her system except for THC. We both let out a sigh of relief. Sam offered for us all to go back to his place for the night, but I declined and just decided to go home. He had a look of disappointment on his face, but at the same time he couldn't have paid me enough to go back to that house. I got in my car and made my way towards home. It was then a million questions popped into my head. If she had nothing in her system, what would have caused that? While I don't smoke, I'm not naive enough to think that weed causes people to convulse and suddenly speak in tongues, let alone dilute their pupils that wide. She had no history of character issues to believe that was an act or a superpower that allowed her to move heavy objects at will. Every logical explanation I could think of was dismissed. After telling my parents, who are skeptics themselves, they recommended I go to church and seek answers there. If my own parents, who raised me to ask questions, think against mainstream ideals, and seek logic and truth, recommended that I go to church, I knew I experienced something common sense would not explain. After years of self-research and communicating with people in the field of the supernatural, I am still left without answers. The suggestion I have received most commonly was that the event could have been a possession of a demon. I cannot bring myself to say or type it for now, for the sake of myself and my family's safety, but it rhymes with the name So-So, which could possibly be the result of not taking the use of Ouija boards seriously in the earlier years of our lives. Sam and I kept in touch a little after that night, never bringing up the event that transpired. It was just one of those gut feelings you have when you know you'll bring up something you regret. We eventually drifted apart, as most teenage/early adult friendships do. But not a week goes by that I don't wake up in the middle of the night covered in sweat with the image of what I saw still fresh in my mind. So that's a pretty interesting story. And I do believe that they're actually claiming it's all true, it's not a creepypasta. Me personally, I've never had a ghost experience like that. I hope to someday, maybe not that crazy, but I hope to have something paranormal-ish happen to me. I gotta hit up the haunted places that we have here in Arizona. We got a lot of them. The hotels and the haunted jails and all that fun stuff. I think we even have some old abandoned cities and stuff. I know we have a lot of mines out here that some of them are hidden up in the mountains. But then I would probably die. So I'm not gonna do the mines in the mountains. That's bad juju. I think we actually lost someone in the mountains not too far from here, that YouTuber who disappeared. I forget exactly where that cave was, but I know it was in the desert. I think it was right around within a few hours of where I'm at. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm not doing it. And if you would like to help support the channel, make sure you check out Creepypasta Amino. I hope to see you over there. I appreciate you checking out this video, and I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I will catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Bad bye.